Biblically Centered Kids.
Welcome to the Biblically Centered Kids podcast. Today is a great Sunday. My name is Miss Danika, and I'm excited to share some fun things with you and then guide you on a draw along. Today is July 14th, 2024, and we've got a delicious national holiday today. Let's see if you can guess. What's cheesy, can use various types of pasta, and is the perfect pairing for some yummy summer barbecue? That's right, macaroni and cheese, of course. And just like I mentioned on Friday, supposedly Thomas Jefferson brought the recipe for mac and cheese to America from Italy. Not only was he one of our founding fathers, but apparently he had quite the appetite and was gracious enough to share those yummy foods with our country in its infancy. And just like our French fries from Friday, there are so many different types of mac and cheese. What's your favorite way to eat it? Or your favorite noodle shape to have it on? Some people even throw in bacon or jalapenos. And actually, in Hong Kong, it's quite common to have mac and cheese for breakfast with peas, ham, mushrooms, and eggs in it. Wow, that doesn't sound like anything I'd like to eat, but I applaud them for thinking outside the box. All right, well, now we're just going to move straight into today's draw along. We are going to do a drawing based on our Old Testament story this week. We will draw Joshua and Caleb coming back from spying out the promised land. If you remember, they were confident in God's leading and were excited to tell the people about the land God promised them. However, because of the other 10 spies, the Israelites got scared and complained and ultimately had to wander in the desert for 40 years. It is believed that they found fruit that were so large they had to be carried between two men. So today's drawing will be Joshua and Caleb carrying a giant bunch of grapes between the two of them. It's time to grab a piece of paper, some pens or pencils or crayons. So I'll give you a little bit of time to get what you need to get situated. All right, for today's drawing, I'm going to have my piece of paper vertical, which means the long side going up and down. And to kind of describe before we get into it, I'm going to have Joshua and Caleb right there in the middle, holding a big stick with a bunch of grapes hanging down, and that bunch of grapes is almost as big as they are. Okay, so let's start with our grapes, actually, so then we can put our men, Joshua and Caleb, on either side. So really, in the direct middle of my page, I'm going to draw a bunch of grapes, probably as tall as my fingers. For some of you little guys, it might be as big as your hand. So let's draw a bunch of grapes. So a bunch of grapes, it's just a bunch of circles for our grapes. However, you know a bunch, it's bigger at the top, and then it goes kind of smaller until it gets to the bottom. So let's make this pretty big in the center of our page. Are you ready? Okay, let's start drawing. So I'm actually making almost like a cloud shape for my grapes. Kind of going vertically, like I said, to make that bunch. And then I'm going to draw some circles kind of all in the middle of it to kind of show all the different grapes. You can either just do a bunch of circles all together or kind of the same thing. Okay, so now I have my big bunch of grapes in the middle. So now I'm going to draw a man on both sides. One of them will be Joshua, one of them will be Caleb. And at the top of my grapes, that's actually going to be where their shoulders are going to hit, because remember, we're going to put these grapes on a limb or a branch that they're carrying in between them. And then they're obviously going to be taller or longer than our grapes because they're walking, holding them up. So I'm going to start with the man on the left. I'm going to say that's going to be Joshua. So I'm going to draw his shoulders, that same height of the grapes. He's wearing a tunic. So it's going to go all the way down to his feet. I'm going to make him have a belt going around his waist. I'm going to make his neck, make his head, his ear. I'm going to have him have shorter hair. And then don't forget his eye and his nose and his face. And if I didn't mention this beforehand, they just have to be facing the same way. So if you want them walking to the right, have him face the right. If you want them walking to the left, have them facing the left. I'm making mine walking to the right, so his head is facing the right side of my page. And this left arm, that's kind of on the left side of his body, I'm just going to make it down, just making it by his side. And then his other arm, I'm actually going to have it bend up, kind of behind the grapes, because he's going to be holding, I'm going to make his fist, he's going to be holding on to a pole, which I'm going to set on his shoulder, kind of behind his neck. And then don't forget his feet with his sandals. He's walking. Okay, so now I've got Joshua. So now I'm going to make Caleb on the other side. And Caleb, I'm actually going to have him, just before I start drawing, I'm already going to know, I'm going to have both his arms bent up in front of him, kind of by his shoulder, and he's going to be holding that pole with both hands. So I'm going to make his tunic first to kind of put him in position. And he's going to have a belt. And then I'm going to make that front arm be bent and up by his shoulder. And his other arm is going to kind of come up and bend around and also be holding on to that pole. And then I've got his neck and his face, and he's facing to the right because they're walking the same way. And he's going to have longer hair. And his ear and his eye, his mouth. Okay, so now I both have them holding on to an imaginary pole. So I need to finish my pole. So I'm going to have it stick out a little bit in front of Caleb. And then I'm going to make it connect like the back of his shoulder, all the way over through the top of the grapes, all the way over to Joshua. Then I'm going to have the pole stick out a little bit behind Joshua. So there they are, walking along, excited to come back. And then we know that they were in Egypt. So I'm going to draw them walking on a road. Oh, and I forgot Caleb's feet. I'm going to draw his feet now. Okay, so that road, I made my road go left to right. So, because they're walking from side to side. And I'm going to draw a cloud in my sky. And then because they are in Egypt, I'm going to put a pyramid in the back. All right, so there we go. We have Joshua and Caleb walking on the road, holding a giant thing of grapes. And there they are in Egypt. So now that we're done, feel free to, you can go back over with pen if you want to draw your lines maybe a little more permanent. And if you want to color it. Were you able to show the excitement that they had from spying out the promised land? I hope so. And maybe you could even use your drawing to tell our Old Testament story to someone today. I know your parent or sibling would love to see what you've done. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed the rest of your Sunday. Mr. Johnny and I can't wait for you to join us tomorrow for a new week and a new biblical family virtue. Until next time.